The Iran-Iraq War was one of the longest and bloodiest conflicts of the 20th century, yet many people today don't know how it started or why it dragged on for so long. To understand this war, we need to go back to the late 1970s, when the Middle East was going through dramatic changes. In 1979, the Islamic Revolution in Iran overthrew the Shah and brought Ayatollah Khomeini to power, promising to spread his religious revolution across the region. This shift alarmed neighboring Iraq, led by Saddam Hussein, who feared that Iraq's large Shiite population could be inspired by the new Iranian regime. On top of this, the two countries had a long-standing dispute over a strategic area called the Shat al-Arab, where the Tigris and Euphrates rivers meet before flowing into the Persian Gulf. This region was a vital route for oil exports and held significant economic and military importance. Tensions were already high. All that was needed was a spark. It came when revolutionary Iran began supporting groups opposed to Saddam's rule. Seeing Iran internally weakened after its revolution, Saddam believed he could easily invade and seize territory. In September 1980, he launched a full-scale attack, expecting a quick victory. What he got instead was an 8-year war. What Saddam failed to anticipate was Iran's response. Despite internal chaos, the Iranians mobilized thousands of volunteers and stopped the Iraqi advance. The war quickly turned into a brutal war of attrition. Both sides suffered enormous losses as the conflict took on characteristics reminiscent of World War I: trench warfare, massive artillery bombardment, and relentless infantry assaults. The Iraqis escalated the brutality by using chemical weapons, including mustard gas, not only against Iranian forces, but also against their own Kurdish population, acts that would be condemned internationally for decades. The rest of the world watched the conflict with mixed motives. Arab Gulf states supported Saddam to contain Iran's influence. The Soviet Union provided weapons to Iraq. The United States, despite its hostile relationship with Iran after the hostage crisis, adopted a contradictory stance, giving intelligence to Iraq while secretly selling arms to Iran in the Iran-Contra affair. It was a regional war, but with global powers feeding it from all sides, each trying to prevent either country from becoming dominant. Year after year, the conflict dragged on with no decisive victories. Iran attempted to invade Iraqi territory in retaliation, but also became bogged down in costly battles. The war drained both nations of money, soldiers, infrastructure, and morale. Thousands of young Iranians and Iraqis died in battles that rarely changed the overall situation. Meanwhile, oil, normally the engine of their economies, became a weapon. Tankers were struck in the Persian Gulf, creating global instability and leading to even deeper foreign involvement. After 8 years of exhaustion, economic collapse, and millions of casualties, both countries reached the same conclusion: neither would win. In 1988, they accepted a ceasefire brokered by the United Nations. When the war ended, the borders were almost exactly the same as before. Nothing had changed territorially, but the human and political consequences were immense. Saddam Hussein emerged weakened, and just 2 years later, invaded Kuwait, triggering the Gulf War. Iran, meanwhile, became even more hardened against the West and solidified a heavily militarized government. The Iran-Iraq War is a reminder of how political ambitions, old rivalries, and foreign interference can transform local tensions into prolonged tragedies. It was a war that began with the promise of a quick victory, but became one of the most devastating conflicts of the 20th century, one that still shapes the Middle East today.